Welcome to Conspiracy Deconstructed.
Today, we are attempting to peer into the heart of an atmospheric enigma, a natural phenomenon so rare, so fleeting, and yet so wildly reported across centuries and cultures that it fundamentally challenges, well, the very bounds of conventional physics.
That's right. Today, we are taking on the ultimate unsolved atmospheric mystery, ball lightning. We're talking about those glowing, hovering spheres of light, sometimes described as, tennis ball sized, sometimes reported as large as a bus, that witnesses claim can float silently through airplane aisles.
Yeah, or bounce down stone steps.
And most bizarrely, pass right through solid walls and glass panes. That's the really mind-bending part.
Absolutely. Our source material today is a fascinating stack. It spans everything from historical accounts documented by, say, 19th century European physicists.
Right.
All the way up to the most modern spectral analysis captured, believe it or not, on the 2,500-meter-high Qinghai Plateau in China. And we're diving deep into a highly speculative, really out there theory, but it's mathematically rigorous.
Okay.
Proposing that this phenomenon, ball lightning, is a direct, detectable manifestation of dark matter annihilation right here on Earth.
Dark matter annihilation. Okay, that's a big leap from a weather phenomenon.
It is. It definitely is.
So our mission today is to figure out what exactly ball lightning is. The core problem, as researchers like Kuehl put it so well, is that we have literally thousands of vivid eyewitness accounts.
Thousands.
And many from highly credible sources, pilots, engineers, trained meteorologists, people who should know what they're seeing.
Exactly. Professionals.
Yet, there's almost no concrete, reproducible scientific evidence. It remains perhaps the greatest, most enduring, unsolved problem in atmospheric physics.
And that profound gap, that mismatch between compelling, vivid testimony on one hand and hard instrumental data on the other.
Right.
That's exactly where the truly unconventional, the high-stakes theories take root.
Right. It's like an open invitation for speculation, isn't it?
Precisely. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does explanation, it seems.
Okay, let's unpack this. We're going to state the theory in its most compelling, kind of unvarnished form.
Laid out up there.
Forget simple electrical plasma, forget static electricity, forget superheated air. What if the hovering, glowing sphere you encounter during a severe storm isn't just high-energy gas, but something that defies three-dimensional reality entirely?
Yeah, the proposition, and it's fueled by these accounts that seem physically impossible, is that these pulsating orbs, which witnesses say can pass silently through solid walls, or, like you mentioned, the World War II pilots reported them flying alongside aircraft, like intelligent escorts.
The Foo Fighters, yeah.
That's them. The idea is they're evidence of something truly exotic, something that points towards maybe extra-dimensional leakage, or a profound dark matter manifestation, or even an exotic, potentially supernatural presence.
It really escalates quickly, doesn't it? It transforms a scary, localized weather event into this profound cosmological mystery.
It does. Because the inherent, documented impossibility of how these things sometimes behave forces us, or at least invites us, to consider physical or even geometric solutions that are way outside the standard physics textbook.
And that's why this anomaly is so sticky in the public imagination. It's just weird enough.
Okay, so to grapple with the sheer scale of this mystery, we really need to establish its historical footing first.
Where does this all come from?
Well, the term itself, ball lightning, or Kugelblitz in German, feu globulaire in French, it's been in use since at least 1837. It was popularized by the French astronomer and physicist François Arago.
1837. Okay, so it's been formally named for a long time.
A very long time. But descriptions of small, fiery spheres showing up during thunderstorms, those trace back way further, possible even to accounts from the early Greeks. It's been observed for millennia.
And crucially, the phenomenon got cemented in the public mind almost immediately as something not just powerful, but profoundly deadly, even before we really understood anything about its nature. And that seems to trace back to one specific, iconic, and really tragic event.
Indeed it does. One of the most cited classical images in, all the ball lightning literature is this famous 1753 electrocution of the physicist Georg Wilhelm Richmann in St. Petersburg.
Richmann, right. He was trying to basically capture lightning, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was an ambitious pioneer. He was conducting atmospheric electricity experiments, essentially trying to, catch lightning in his laboratory using these non-grounded conductors. Very dangerous stuff back then.
And he was killed instantly, but it wasn't actually ball lightning that killed him, was it?
No, that's the critical point. He was killed by a conventional cloud-to-ground lightning strike that followed his conductors indoors. A horrific tragedy, absolutely, but scientifically explainable by standard electrical discharge.
Okay, so where does the ball lightning connection come in?
Well, a popular engraving of the event, which got circulated widely across Europe, actually pictured a lightning ball hitting him directly.
Oh, I see. Artistic license, maybe? Sensationalism?
Probably a bit of both. But this graphic depiction, combined with the, dramatic and grim fate of this avant-garde scientist messing with lightning, it gave ball lightning this highly destructive, even deadly popular image.
And that image stuck.
It really did. This imagery became interwoven with folklore and danger, persisting across centuries, even though the incident itself was, scientifically speaking, a conventional lightning strike. So this early confusion between powerful known electricity and this strange, rare spherical phenomenon has kind of haunted the research ever since.
Oh, the phenomenon starts as a scientific curiosity, but then it quickly gets tangled up with dangerous folklore because of one sensationalized picture, and that fragmentation, that confusion, has persisted for nearly 300 years.
It really has. Unlike regular lightning research, which researchers Rakoff and Uman note boast something like over 6,000 rigorous references,
Wow.
ball lightning is often called a fragmented science. We have nearly 5,000 anecdotal reports, but minimal hard documentation.
5,000 anecdotes versus maybe a handful of photos or recordings, that's a staggering ratio.
It is. It speaks volumes about the challenge here. 5,000 stories, but so few confirmed photographs or scientific recordings.
And yet, the scientific community can't just dismiss these reports entirely, can they? Especially when they come from credible, trained observers.
Precisely. They can't. In fact, a consensus among about 30 European researchers involved in this project, called Cost Action P18, stated clearly that the reality of ball lightning is not in doubt.
Okay, so despite the lack of a single satisfying explanation, the sheer volume and the credibility of the reports confirm its existence. The question isn't if it's real,
Right.
but what it is.
Exactly. What is this thing? Or maybe, what are these things?
So let's try to nail down what the collective data compiled from these, trained observers actually tells us. What are the, frustratingly inconsistent characteristics of this anomaly?
Well, the difficulty really stems from its core nature. It's described as met-testable and luminous, appearing seemingly at random in time and space. Researchers like Alexander Kuehl have done great work compiling data on 41 high-quality cases from 8 countries, scanning from 1868 all the way to 2020.
Okay.
And the data just confirms profound heterogeneity. It's all over the map.
Give us the extremes on size. How big or small can these things be?
Okay, sizes vary wildly. On the small end, we have reports of spheres as tiny as 1.5 centimeters, like the size of a marble.
Tiny.
Tiny. But then, on the truly terrifying side, there's that report of a bus-sized object seen by a Coast Guard in the UK back in 1977.
Bus size, that's enormous.
Enormous. However, the mean and median size tends to center more around the 25 to 68 centimeter range, so think basketball or maybe a large beach ball.
Okay, generally basketball or football size that's large enough to be immediately visible and probably terrifying.
Oh, definitely.
But maybe small enough to be easily missed by routine instrument monitoring like weather cameras.
Exactly. And the duration is even more critical for researchers trying to study it. While some unusually long-lived objects were reported to last up to 180 seconds, that's a full 3 minutes, which would allow for pretty detailed observation.
Right, you could actually watch it for a bit.
You could. But the median observation time, the typical time, it's mere 4.0 seconds.
4 seconds. Wow, that is barely enough time for a witness to even process what they are seeing, let alone pull out a cell phone, hit record, or, turn on a high-speed camera if they happen to have one pointed in the right direction.
Absolutely. This transient nature is likely why instrumental monitoring is so minimal, despite decades of efforts trying to catch one.
It just vanishes too quickly.
It seems so. There was one search of the night sky, for instance, that involved, get this, 12,000 photographic records taken daily for over 10 years by the U.S. Prairie Meteorite Network.
Okay, that's a massive data set.
Huge. And after trawling through all that data, they found only 2 probable ball lightning events.
2 out of 10 years of daily photos.
2. The sheer improbability of capturing it is what makes those anecdotal reports so powerful, but also so frustrating for scientists.
Yeah.
And, as Rakoff and Uman noted, because of this heterogeneity, this inconsistency, there are actually many luminous phenomena created in labs that people have claimed might be ball lightning.
Right, trying to replicate it.
Exactly. But none of them is fully satisfactory. None quite matches all the descriptions, which strongly suggests we might actually be dealing with multiple distinct phenomena, all getting lumped together under the single umbrella term ball lightning.
So maybe there isn't just one kind of ball lightning.
Ugh.
Okay, now we move into the territory that utterly defies those conventional atmospheric explanations. The stuff that forces us to even consider ideas like dark matter or 5 dimensions.
Right. These are the stories, often reported by highly credible professionals, where these objects perform feats that just seem physically impossible.
We're building the case for the unconventional here, looking at the evidence charitably as proponents would present it.
And the key here, again, is acknowledging the high credibility of the reporters.
Right.
We're not talking vague anecdotes from unreliable sources necessarily. These are often professional engineers, radio astronomers, even coroner's people trained to observe and record precise characteristics.
Okay, let's start with maybe the most compelling impossibility. The ghostly entrance and passage through solid objects. I mean, if ball lightning is just a hot, expanding gas or some kind of high-energy plasma, how does it possibly pass through a solid wall or a pane of glass without exploding or leaving a massive hole?
Exactly. Proponents of the exotic theories point to accounts where physical barriers seem, well, irrelevant. Consider the professional engineer's account from Seattle in 1993. This was during a heavy storm.
Okay.
He was sitting at his desk, working. Just 2 minutes after a loud thunderclap, a bright white sphere, about 23 to 30 centimeters in diameter, so roughly a foot wide, appeared suddenly just 30 centimeters from his face, hovering right above his Mac computer.
It materialized seemingly from nowhere, inside a sealed room.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
It lasted only about 3 seconds, then it burst, that was his word, with an electrical click sound, and simultaneously another loud thunderclap occurred outside.
Wow.
But crucially, witnesses frequently report these objects entering homes through tiny holes, or even closed metal screens or closed windows. It suggests the object isn't behaving like a macroscopic ball of gas that needs a large opening.
It's either finding incredibly small entry points, or it's somehow penetrating the barrier itself.
That's the implication. Or maybe its nature is something else entirely.
But the prize for the most bizarre behavior, the one that really breaks physics, has to be the 1955 coroner's case in Austria.
Oh, yes. This is a classic example. You have an observer trained in forensic detail recording an event that seems to just violate Newtonian physics completely. Coroner Leopold Breitneck.
Oh, coroner.
He was conducting an autopsy in an old mortuary during a severe thunderstorm. Lightning struck the building, actually threw the electricity meter off the wall. And from that hole where the meter was, a fist-sized, sharply outlined ball descended to the floor. It was radiating a bluish-white light.
Okay, so far, maybe unusual, but possible. But then comes the impossible sequence of events.
Right. Here's where it gets weird. It moved along the floor.
Yeah.
Then it disappeared into the solid stone wall beneath the door frame.
Into the stone.
Into the stone wall. Then it emerged on the other side of that stone structure, bounced down 3 steps, like a toy ball, his description.
Bounced,
and finally vanished into a grave mound outside after traveling maybe 8 to 10 meters in about 5 seconds.
Hold on. So this thing, described by a coroner, not some random person, literally vanished into solid stone, then re-emerged on the other side, moving with kinetic energy, bouncing like a child's toy.
That's the report.
That's not hot plasma. That's
Well, yeah.
That's something out of a physics nightmare. Or maybe a quantum mechanics textbook illustration gone wild. This kind of behavior is exactly what makes the exotic theories so compelling to some people.
It really stretches the bounds of classical explanation.
Okay, next category. The aviation and calculated trajectory anomalies. Evidence provided by people whose careers depend on accurately measuring speed and motion, like pilots and physicists.
Right. And the famous Jennison encounter from 1963 is a prime example. This involves Roger Clifton Jennison, a respected radio astronomer.
A scientist.
A scientist, yes. He was on an Eastern Airlines night flight. He reported seeing a glowing sphere, about 22 centimeters in diameter, blue-white in color, emerge from the pilot's cabin.
From the cockpit, which is a highly restricted, shielded area.
Exactly. And then it floated down the entire aisle of the plane, maintaining the same height off the floor, right past him, at a slow, steady velocity of about 1.5 meters per second, like it was just cruising along.
Inside a sealed metal tube, basically, without interacting violently with the conductive metal hull of the aircraft.
This event got widely publicized, and it suggests really complex motion, maybe internal formation inside the plane, which is very hard to explain with atmospheric electricity.
And that silent, purposeful movement, it connects directly back to those old Foo Fighters reports from World War II, doesn't it?
It really does. British Royal Air Force pilots, American pilots too, documented seeing these bright spheres flying alongside their aircraft, sometimes for minutes at a time, keeping pace.
Which must have been incredibly unnerving.
Absolutely. It sparked early speculation that they were some kind of secret enemy technology, or maybe some type of non-natural surveillance device, precisely because their behavior seemed to defy conventional aerodynamics. They weren't acting like normal aircraft or weather phenomena.
But perhaps the most mathematically impossible observation, the one that just blows aerodynamics out of the water, is the supersonic spectacle witnessed and calculated by physics professor Walther Gerlach back in 1927.
Yes, Gerlach, in Tübingen, Germany. He saw a bright, luminous, yellowish-white ball that flew along a straight trajectory. Being a physicist, he didn't just watch it, he measured it.
And what did his calculation reveal? This is the mind-blowing part.
Gerlach calculated that the object flew a 2,450-meter trajectory that's nearly 2.5 kilometers in just 2 seconds.
2 seconds that requires.
A mean speed of about 125 meters per second. That's Mach 3.6. Supersonic. Faster than a rifle bullet.
Mach 3.6. Okay. But the truly bizarre part.
And yet the ball was reported as completely soundless before it exploded violently 2 seconds later.
Soundless at Mach 3.6? How is that even possible? It should have produced a massive sonic boom.
Exactly. The combination of supersonic speed without any visible or audible sonic signature, followed by a violent detonation, it absolutely defies known aerodynamics and atmospheric physics. For an object of that size, moving at that speed, to generate no sonic boom suggests its interaction with the air itself is fundamentally different from any conventional object or plasma.
That is the ultimate anomaly, maybe. Just completely baffling. Okay, finally, let's look at the physical damage and the enormous localized energy trace some of these objects leave behind. This suggests an immense power density packed into a small space.
Yeah, we have to revisit the Doorstone tub case from 1936 in the UK. This story is legendary in ball lightning circles. A red-hot ball apparently struck a house, cut telephone wires clean through, burned a window frame.
Okay, sounds destructive.
And then landed in a tub of water inside the house. And according to the witness, the water in that tub boiled for some minutes afterwards.
Boiled? How much water are we talking about?
The report mentions about 18 liters, so roughly 4 gallons of water. Boiling that much water and keeping it boiling for minutes requires a tremendous amount of sustained, localized energy release.
Way more than just static electricity could provide.
Oh, absolutely. Based on this sparse but really compelling report, physicists calculated that the localized energy density must have been enormous. The estimate is at least 2,000 joules per cubic centimeter.
2,000 joules per cubic centimeter? How does that compare to, say, conventional explosives?
It's roughly equivalent to the energy density you might find in a small explosive charge like TNT. But crucially, this energy seems localized into the volume of maybe a tennis ball and released rapidly, but perhaps not always instantaneously like a bomb. It implies explosive power without necessarily the conventional chemical combustion. This simply defies the energy storage capacity calculated for simple atmospheric plasma models.
And the modern equivalent of this kind of destructive trace, the one that gives us actual physical evidence to analyze, is the Pockwag window incident in New York from 2008.
Right. This is incredibly important because it left measurable physical traces. In that incident, a glowing blue sphere apparently interacted with a window pane, leaving a visible track. But more importantly, under microscopic examination, they found a tiny, near-microscopic hole melted into the glass.
A hole, not just a scorch mark.
A hole, yes. And calibrated measurements of the track show that the object's radiation output must have been high enough to cause glass fluorescence. This strongly suggests powerful ionizing radiation like UV or even X-rays was being released.
Okay, so not just heat and light, but high-energy radiation operating potentially at a subatomic level.
Exactly. And this crucial piece of evidence, particularly that tiny melted hole, is the smoking gun that later theorists, especially the dark matter proponents, will seize upon as proof that something very unusual is happening. Okay, so the reality of ball lightning, when you look at all the data, is that it's scientifically messy. It's just all over the place.
Yeah, that seems clear.
The compiled evidence shows this massive variation in size, duration, behavior. Kuehl's analysis found 9 high-quality cases near mountains, 6 near power lines, 4 inside airplanes. This sheer heterogeneity, as Reckhoff and Uman pointed out, really forces us to seek multiple theories, because a single unifying model just seems insufficient to explain both the silent, ghostly passages through walls and the explosive, destructive traces like boiling water.
Right, it feels like maybe we're talking about apples and oranges, but calling them both fruit.
That's a good analogy. So let's start with the theory that attempts to ground ball lightning firmly in conventional atmospheric science, and the one that actually has the most concrete physical evidence behind it right now. The vaporized silicon hypothesis.
The superheated dirt theory.
Pretty much, yeah. This hypothesis, proposed initially by Abramson and Dennis, is currently the leading conventional explanation. And its prominence is primarily thanks to that incredible 2012 Chinese observation we mentioned earlier.
The one on the Qinghai Plateau.
That's the one. For the very first time, a team led by Jianyong Sen, quite accidentally, captured a 1.64-second ball lightning event with 2 video cameras that happened to be equipped with slitless spectroscopy.
Which means they could actually analyze the light coming from the ball, break it down. What did the spectrum reveal about the ball's composition? What was it made of?
The spectral analysis showed strong emission lines for iron, A, calcium, calcium Ca, and silicon Si.
Minerals.
Exactly. Minerals found in soil. Alongside, of course, atmospheric elements you'd expect, like nitrogen N and oxygen O, from the air. This composition is entirely consistent with the vaporized silicon hypothesis.
Which holds that. Remind us again.
It posits that when a powerful conventional lightning strike hits soil that's rich in silicon dioxide, which is basically sand or quartz and other minerals, the sheer heat and electrical energy vaporizes these soil components.
Correct.
This creates a floating, relatively cool plasma ball made of glowing incandescent nanoparticles of silicon and its oxides, maybe mixed with other vaporized earth elements. This ball glows due to ongoing chemical reactions, like oxidation, until the fuel, the nanoparticles, are consumed.
So it's essentially a burning cloud of microscopic dirt particles held together maybe by electrical charges.
That's the core idea. And importantly, this wasn't just theory. They managed to reproduce something similar in the lab.
They did.
Yes. Lab recreations, I think around 2014, successfully generated glowing, floating orbs by vaporizing silicon wafers with electrical arcs. And these lab-made orbs matched the predicted chemical composition from the Chinese spectrum. So this reinforces an Earth-based origin for at least some types of ball lightning. It explains the light, the heat, and the composition quite beautifully, all within the context of conventional physics.
Okay, that's a neat solution. It feels grounded,
Yeah.
but it forces us to ignore or at least downplay half the eyewitness accounts, doesn't it?
Right.
Especially the most incredible ones.
It does. That's the major
For
limitation.
the silicon model and other conventional MHD magnetohydrodynamic plasma theories, they still really struggle to explain the ghostly passage through solid objects, or the immense energy content seen in cases like the doorstone tub boiling water. How does a cloud of burning dirt pass through glass?
Exactly. And that failure of the conventional models to account for the truly bizarre behavior is what necessitates the radical leap into more exotic physics. For instance, those MHD plasma models you mentioned. They assume that the ball's energy is stored in some kind of complex, self-contained magnetic field structure, trapping the superheated gas.
Right, like a magnetic bottle holding the plasma. Sounds plausible, sounds powerful.
It sounds plausible, but it runs into a massive quantitative wall when you do the math. The numbers just don't add up for the high-energy events.
How so?
Well, theoretical calculations have established a pretty firm upper bound for the amount of energy that can realistically be stored in these kinds of atmospheric MEC structures. The limit is estimated to be only around 2 to 5 kilojoules, KJ.
Okay, 2 to 5 kiloj.
That's the absolute maximum magnetic fields are thought capable of containing in that sort of atmospheric environment. However, the observed average energy of documented powerful ball lightning events, calculated from damage reports like Doorstone, is much higher, typically estimated between 12 to 30 kiloj.
So significantly higher than the theoretical maximum for magnetic storage.
Way higher. And some extreme cases have been estimated up to maybe 1,000 kiloj. This discrepancy immediately tells us that the primary energy source of the most destructive and highest energy forms of ball lightning is not magnetic field energy. It can't be.
It must be coming from somewhere else, a non-atmospheric, maybe incredibly dense energy source?
Precisely. The energy has to originate from a different mechanism altogether if those high-energy reports are accurate.
So if we accept the impossible, or at least the conventionally impossible, the silent supersonic speed Gerlach calculated, the passage through solid stone reported by the coroner, the massive energy density needed to boil water, We have to kind of throw out the standard atmospheric physics textbook, at least for those cases, and look elsewhere.
That's the logical next step if you take those reports seriously.
And that brings us to arguably the most radical, the most out there theory currently on the table, the dark matter solution.
This is a highly unorthodox, purely theoretical explanation proposed by physicist Ariel Zhitnitsky. And it suggests that ball lightning isn't weather at all, but a profound manifestation of dark matter physics involving something called the axion quark nugget, or AQN, dark matter model.
Okay, hold on. Axion quark nuggets. We're saying the evidence for a weird weather phenomenon, these glowing balls, requires us to invoke a mechanism involving antimatter nuggets formed supposedly in the early universe interacting with Earth. Isn't that a monumental leap of faith just to explain why a glowing ball didn't destroy a window?
It is a monumental leap, absolutely. There's no direct proof of AQNs existing yet.
Yeah.
But it's a leap that Zhitnitsky argues elegantly explains the otherwise impossible behaviors that conventional physics simply fails to address.
How does it work? What's the proposed mechanism?
Okay, so the AQN model proposes these nuggets are incredibly dense objects made of quarks and gluons, possibly containing antimatter, specifically antiquarks. They will potentially form fractions of a second after the Big Bang. Crucially, Zhitnitsky suggests the AQN acts like a chameleon. Out in the vast emptiness of space, it behaves like standard, non-interacting dark matter, decoupled from radiation, invisible.
Okay.
But when it hits something dense, like Earth's atmosphere or surface, it becomes strongly interacting.
And the ball lightning we see is fueled by antimatter annihilation. Is that the idea?
That is the proposed energy mechanism. When an AQN containing antimatter hits Earth's atmosphere, the annihilation event between the antiquarks inside the nugget and the regular matter atoms, like nitrogen and oxygen, releases an enormous amount of energy.
Annihilation. That definitely provides the energy.
It certainly could. The energy is released primarily in the form of high-energy photons, specifically X-rays and UV light, potentially up to 612 keV range. This could easily account for the massive energy density needed for something like the Doorstone tub case, far exceeding that MHD limit of a few kilojoules.
Okay, that covers the energy budget problem, but how does this model explain the ball passing through the Poquog window without just shattering it? Plasma would have reacted violently with the glass. The AQN theory has to account for that tiny, specific $24 texmiller hole they found.
Right. And this is the absolute linchpin of Zhitnitsky's theory, because it attempts to tie the exotic dark matter model directly to that precise piece of physical trace evidence. Conventional plasma, as you said, shouldn't pass through solid glass without a huge thermal shock and likely shattering.
Yeah.
However, the AQN model predicts something different. When the AQN itself, this tiny, dense nugget, hits a high-density material like glass, the mean free path, MFP, of those high-energy X-ray photons it's emitting changes drastically.
Okay, let's slow down on mean free path. What does that mean in this context?
Think of it like this. Imagine throwing microscopic darts. Those are the high-energy photons. When you throw them through something low density like air, fog maybe, the dart travels, on average, a relatively long distance before it hits an air molecule, let's say 10 centimeters.
Okay.
When it hits that air molecule, it ionizes it, causing visible light. That 10-centimeter path length, the MFP in air, explains why the visible ball lightning sphere appears to be 10 to maybe 70 centimeters across. The visible sphere isn't the nugget itself. It's just the glowing halo of ionized air around the nugget, tracing the path of those photons.
Right, the sphere is the effect, not the cause. So what happens when those same photons, those darts, hit dense glass instead of air?
Well, when the AQN hits dense glass, now imagine throwing that dart through a solid block of wood. The mean free path is instantly cut short because the atoms are packed much, much closer together. The density is vastly higher.
So the photons don't travel as far before hitting something.
Exactly. The AQN model predicts that the energy deposition from these photons gets localized into an extremely small area within the glass. The calculation suggests around 725 texmillimeters in typical glass. This intense, localized energy causes instantaneous melting and vaporization on a nearly microscopic scale.
And that explains the tiny $24 texmil cavity found in the Poquog glass sample.
That's the claim. It provides a potential explanation for this completely new microscopic length scale, 724 texmillimeter, which seems totally decoupled from the much larger visible sphere size, tens of centimeters.
That's actually astonishing if true. So the visible sphere is just the glowing trail in the air, the ionization halo, while the true destructive agent, the thing punching the hole, is this tiny subatomic projectile powered by antimatter annihilation passing through the barrier.
That's the essence of the AQN interpretation.
And that would also explain the huge range of reported energies. Maybe just depends on the size or antimatter content of the specific AQN that hits.
Yes, the model suggests the total energy released is proportional to the size or baryon number of the initial AQN fragment, making the theory potentially consistent with the wide range of observed energies, from small pops to massive explosions.
It also explains the high radiation output needed for the glass fluorescence they saw at Pauquag, since the energy release is primarily high-energy photons, X-rays.
Correct. It ticks quite a few boxes that conventional theories struggle with.
Okay. Before we leave the theoretical realm, we have to at least touch upon that final alternative physical model you mentioned, the extra-dimensional hypothesis, the geometry solution.
Ah, yes, the 5D explanation. This is a highly non-physical model, more of a mathematical or geometric analogy, proposed by theoretical physicist Dr. Andrea Io. Interestingly, he was inspired partly by his own sighting of ball lightning.
He saw one himself.
He did, and he described it as just a light. Critically, he reported no smell, heat, flow, nothing. It was purely luminous, non-interactive.
Which is a completely different experience from the doorstone tub boiling water or the Pauquag window damage, a non-physical observation.
Exactly, a stark contrast. And this led Aiello to propose a simple geometric description involving adding a fifth dimension to space-time.
How does adding a dimension explain ball lightning?
His argument is basically this. If ordinary lightning, which we perceive as a 3D cylinder of plasma, actually existed momentarily as a phenomenon in 5D space-time, then its cross-section, the slice of that 5D event that we can perceive in our limited 3D world, would mathematically appear as a perfect sphere of light.
Huh. So we're just seeing a 3D shadow or slice of a higher dimensional lightning strike.
That's the geometric idea. It's attractive because it naturally explains the perfect spherical geometry often reported, and it fits well with those purely luminous, seemingly non-interactive sightings like Aiello's own. It suggests we're merely observing a projection.
It's elegant in a way, but it doesn't really explain the physical interactions, the energy, the damage.
No, it's more suited for the ghostly light type reports.
What's fascinating here, stepping back, is how the unexplained characteristics of this phenomenon force serious, credible scientists to explore absolutely all options, from vaporized dirt to antimatter nuggets from the Big Bang to extra dimensions of space-time. The sheer difficulty in capturing and measuring the phenomenon is the fuel for this incredibly radical theoretical expansion.
It truly pushes the boundaries of physics and imagination. And that brings us to why ball lightning holds such enduring power, why it sits so squarely on that borderland between folklore and established science. We've established pretty clearly that the evidence is overwhelmingly dominated by eyewitness accounts.
Yeah, thousands of stories.
And those accounts often include, let's be honest, wild claims that wildly diverge from something like the simple silicon hypothesis, things that just sound impossible.
The comparison to unidentified flying objects, UFOs, feels unavoidable here, and it seems related to the psychological pull of the phenomenon. Skeptical observers often point out that the ratio of eyewitness accounts to actual high-quality video or photographic evidence for ball lightning is extremely high.
Astronomical, almost.
And that mirrors the exact same issue faced by people studying UFO reports. Where's the clear footage?
Exactly. You'd think, especially in the age of omnipresent cameras, dash cams, smartphones everywhere, security cameras on every porch, we would expect hundreds, if not thousands, of crystal clear, high-resolution videos of something that multiple credible people claim to have witnessed up close.
Oh, we don't have that.
We really don't. The high-quality evidence remains incredibly elusive. Now, as we discussed, the median duration is just 4 seconds. That transient nature, combined with the fact it often occurs during chaotic, high-stakes storm environments, definitely makes instrumental documentation extremely difficult. It's not easy to catch.
But the psychological pull remains incredibly strong. Why does this specific phenomenon generate such enduring, such radical speculation? Why do these outlandish claims, even when made by credible people like pilots and engineers, sometimes seem to carry more weight in the public mind than, say, the spectral data captured by trained meteorologists?
I think it's that potent combination of sheer unpredictability and the reported outlandish behavior.
The wall facing, the silent hovering.
Right. Passing through walls, hovering silently when it should fall, moving with apparent intelligence or purpose, or achieving calculated supersonic speeds without a boom. These characteristics link it directly in the public imagination at least, to things like UFOs and flying saucers. They seem to require extraordinary explanations.
Like alien technology.
Or dark matter interactions, or glimpses into a fifth dimension, because conventional explanations feel inadequate to cover those extreme reports.
So it provides a more satisfying, maybe a more high-stakes explanation for what is otherwise a baffling, unpredictable natural event. It takes an atmospheric fluke, a weird bit of weather,
and transforms it into something profound. A manifestation of fundamental physics we don't understand yet, or evidence of secret knowledge, or contact with something beyond our reality. There's a certain comfort, maybe, in thinking that something so unpredictable isn't just random chaos, but is actually governed by deep, fundamental principles, even if we haven't cracked them yet.
Yeah, it makes the universe feel mysterious, but perhaps ultimately knowable, even if the explanation is exotic.
Right. Some psychological theories suggest that when an observer sees something truly unexplainable, something that violates their understanding of how the world works, their mind reaches for the most profound tools available to make sense of it. A silent glowing sphere moving against the laws of known physics isn't just a scientific anomaly anymore.
It becomes almost by definition.
A portal, maybe. Or a fragment of deep space physics intruding on Earth. Or an extra-dimensional cross-section made visible. The explanation escalates to match the perceived impossibility of the event.
So where does that leave us? We're left with a scientific consensus that ball lightning, in some form, is real. But it's fragmented, possibly multiple phenomena. We have a conventional explanation, the silicon hypothesis, which nicely explains the spectrum of the best documented case, the light and heat associated with an Earth-based origin. But it struggles, or completely fails, to explain the most bizarre properties reported by many credible observers.
And then we have the radical, exotic explanations like the dark matter AQN model that elegantly do account for much of the impossible behavior, like passing through solids and the immense energy density. But they require us to accept physics far beyond the standard model, physics for which we have no independent proof yet.
And then the simpler geometric models, like the 5D idea, which satisfy some of the purely ghostly light reports, but fail completely on the cases involving physical destruction or interaction.
Right. The ultimate unresolved challenge remains exactly this. Until quantitative measurements become common, until we somehow manage to get more spectrum readings, like the one from China, more high-speed video capturing the formation and decay, and crucially, more physical samples like that glass pane from Poquag with its tiny hole.
Until then, all these theories, from mundane burning dirt to exotic dark matter annihilation to extra dimensions, are, in a sense, as Dr. Aiello put it, equally valid and equally possible. We're stuck in the state of high-stakes theoretical limbo, waiting for better data. #outro. Okay, so to summarize this deeply illuminating and frankly mind-bending exploration, we've looked at the conventional earthbound theory of vaporized silicon plasma, which fits some data well.
We've seen how the standard MHD plasma models fail on the energy requirements for the more extreme cases.
We considered the geometric elegance of the fifth dimension idea, mostly for those non-physical, purely light-based sightings.
And we dove deep into the radical, almost sci-fi notion that these spheres might be powered by deep cosmic dark matter annihilation, hitting Earth constantly.
The sheer bizarre behavior of ball lightning, confirmed by trained, credible observers over centuries, continues to force physics to look far, far outside the conventional textbook.
It really is a genuine bridge, or maybe a battleground, between atmospheric science, plasma physics, and fundamental cosmology.
And here's where it gets really interesting, and this is our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. Perhaps the most precise, most intriguing piece of evidence we actually have isn't the reported size of the football-sized sphere, or the sound of the explosion, or the witness testimony, but rather the near-microscopic wound it left behind in that one case.
That tiny $24 text millihole melted into a window pane in Poquag.
Yeah, that physical trace, seemingly completely decoupled in scale from the large visible sphere people see. Could that be the strongest hint that at least some of these phenomena are not simple atmospheric plasma at all?
But perhaps, instead, the highly localized, incredibly high energy result of subatomic particle interactions, operating on a scale we just don't normally encounter.
The question then becomes, and this is what we want you to think about, if the energy source is exotic, if it's powerful enough to pierce solid glass on a sub-millimeter scale while producing a large glowing halo, is the dark matter model, despite its incredible need for new physics like antimatter nuggets formed in the early universe, is that the only explanation currently on the table that seems capable of accounting for all the reported inexplicable properties of ball lightning? Or is the truth simpler, and the weirder stories just misinterpretations?
We really want to know what stands out to you. Do you side with the more mundane, reproducible silicon plasma model, perhaps accepting that the most bizarre accounts are exaggerations or misreports? Or do you think the sheer weight of impossible behavior reported by credible witnesses demands a radical solution, like dark matter or extra dimensions? Where do you land on this spectrum? Leave a comment and let us know your thoughts.